One of the biggest challenges that a lot of companies are facing today and when they're experimenting with AI is how they get to scale it. A lot of companies haven't gotten the ROI that they are seeking from the investment. There's definitely investment happening, but the ROI from that investment, the scale of that investment hasn't happened yet in many cases. And that has happened for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they don't understand where to start. There's a lot of companies talking about AI and how you should invest in AI, talking about capabilities like this very specific capability that is going to help you. But they don't focus enough on the customer challenge, right? Like, how is the customer going to use AI? How are they not only going to activate it in their business process, but also how are they going to increase the adoption and the usage of AI? Because that's what's going to give them the ROI.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CMOs Unscripted. This is season 2. I can't believe it. And you know, because you've been with us through season 1, we skipped the buzzwords. We're talking about what's actually changing in marketing right now. And I cannot wait for you to meet my next guest. Brenda Bown is here. She is, I've been stalking her on LinkedIn for a very long time, a people-first marketing leader, CMO for SAP Business AI. And she's known for combining things like empathy with execution, really focusing on helping teams and customers drive through change. Super important, as we all know, we are defined by this really fast AI-driven transformation that we're living in. Well, what Brenda brings as CMO is a deep customer-centric lens to marketing. And I totally align with this because she's really good at translating complex technology into really clear business value, while also, and this is so key these days, building cultures that are really rooted in learning and trust and growth. Brenda, welcome to the program. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. And I have been talking you too. So it's great to be here together.
Wonderful. So I just gave an intro of you because I was stalking your LinkedIn, but what else about you would you like the audience to know before we kick things off?
I think that, I've been in the industry for a while, Lisa. I've been a marketer my whole career. I just feel really privileged. Like, that's the only thing that I want to add to be working in enterprise AI in this moment, particularly in history. It is a moment that is categorically different, as you all know. It influences not only everyone's work lives, but also our lives in general, right? Like, AI is changing how we do so many things. And particularly, AI is intersecting with fundamental things like our values, like how humans and technology are working together. There's very few times and moments in time that actually have that intersection, right? And people and technology and what both together are best at. So I'm super excited about being on marketing these days.
I agree with you. It's such an interesting time. Everything is moving so quickly. We went from generative AI to agentic like that. And so it's so interesting, but I would love to understand from your lens, what are some of the biggest challenges companies are facing today? Because the speed is there when making smart AI buying decisions. What are some of those big things in the way?
Yes, you're right, Lisa. I think the speed that's a noun, like that's a given, right? Like, things change overnight. That's also super exciting because it's a continuous learning moment, right? Like, you are continuously learning, continuously experimenting. What I see as the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges that a lot of companies are facing today and when they're experimenting with AI is how they get to scale it, right? Like, a lot of companies haven't gotten the ROI that they are seeking from the investment. There's definitely investment happening, but the ROI from that investment, the scale of that investment hasn't happened yet in many cases, right? So, and that has happened for a variety of reasons, right? Sometimes they don't understand where to start, right? So there's a lot of noise, as you well know.
Yes.
There's a lot of companies talking about AI and how you should invest in AI. So talking about capabilities like this very specific capability that is going to help you, but they don't focus enough on the customer challenge, right? Like, how is the customer going to use AI? How are they not only going to activate it in their business process, but also how are they going to increase the adoption and the usage of AI? Because that's what's going to give them the ROI, right? So that's just a classic example in marketing of not listening to the customer, right? Like, you need to understand the audience. You need to understand who you are marketing, who you're selling to. And that's one of the things as marketers at SAP, one of our jobs is to really help companies understand how to solve this adoption and this scale issue that we're seeing in the market. And one of the pieces of advice that I always give sounds super simple, but is pick specific processes that you know that are drive value in your company, right? So top line results, bottom line results, like what drives that? And then try to think about how AI and agents, right? Because everything is agentic these days, how agents are going to supercharge those outcomes, right? Like that's our approach that we have at SAP. And we certainly not focus only on like selling you a product, because of course that's what we build, right? But we really need to be a partner in your transformation, because our customers are in different stages in their transformation. So we focus a lot on that.
That's key. You know, it's kind of what you're describing as marketing fundamentals in terms of it's all about the customer. We have to listen to the customer. We have to help them understand as we're kind of in this race all together. What I'm hearing a lot, you know, it's early 2026 about this year. Last year was about experimentation with AI. This year is going to all be about execution. But companies, a lot of them are stuck in that pilot mode. You mentioned for some very good reasons. How do you help advise them, especially as you're talking with many customers who are at different stages, like you said, but how do you help advise them get unstuck?
So there's a few reasons and a few things that are, like you said, they're fundamental. One of them is data. Many companies don't have a solid data foundation, right? So we know that success with AI is all about the data that AI reasons over, right? And the data that it uses. So a lot of companies are still stuck in data silos. So data in different parts of the company, in different systems, right? So what's super important is to bring all of that data together. We do it with Data Cloud, of course, as an offering, but that is the intent, really bringing all those data silos together so the company can actually see the benefit and the power of their data, because from that is what AI is going to start deriving and producing value from. Another big problem, and I touched on it a little bit already, is that companies don't get the help that they need to identify the right business process that they need to optimize, that they need to automate, and that they need to make better with AI, right? So they get stuck in this pilots of specific things that they do, but they are not looking fundamentally, are their data at the business process that they want to optimize. And really the majority of AI value in an enterprise comes from improving those core business functions, right?
Yes.
That's what we found. There's many consulting firms and research that has validated that. Yep. And many companies start with like a cool AI solution and something that helps them produce something that they can show. But that is truly a mistake in the long term, right? Because you need to start with what's important for your company from a business process standpoint and what is going to help you realize that ROI and what's going to help you either be more productive, save money, make a process better, or reinventing that process and reimagining it, and then apply AI to it to be able to get to that outcome.
Exactly. You know, I wonder if it's this like weird conundrum, Brenda, where everybody's talking about AI, has been for years. We've seen leaders, the Jensen Huangs, the Michael Dells, telling people and others, if you're not working with AI, you're already behind, or even if it's too late. So there's that speed factor that I think a lot of companies are wrestling with. And is it as simple as, and I don't want to trivialize this, is simple as just starting small instead of trying to do everything all at once? I think that's what you're saying. Like, pick the business processes that will impact revenue, for example.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes people look at silos again because companies have different business functions, but we know that those business processes connect, right? So what will be a use case, for example, to be able to get to a customer to provide better customer service, it implies a lot of things, right? It implies your customer service department, but it also like how fast you can get product to them, how fast you can get recommendations. From a supply chain standpoint, there's implications there. So I think that looking at the processes that tie together and say, okay, how can I make that better? But yes, it's starting very practical, right? It could be small, it could be a little bit bigger, depending on the customer, but it's something that is very practical and that we know that you're going to get value from it. And that's what we get really obsessed in SAP is truly the value and the outcome that you're going to get from applying that AI, not AI just for the sake of applying it in your business process.
Absolutely, because there's no value in that. And we're hearing, I talked about, it's last year was experimentation and this year is about execution and from pilots to performance. But there's also a lot of noise out there that companies have to really parse through. How does SAP think about marketing AI differently? Like not as a product, but as an actual business transformation, like accelerant?
And I talked about that from a measurable business outcome standpoint, because we do think about marketing AI in some ways is you marketing the same way that you market any product, right? Which is you truly have to think about your audience, right? So there's AI that helps certain business functions. So it depends on the role. We really look at the different roles in an organization, right? So if you're in the finance department, if you're in the supply chain department, if you're in IT, right? Or if you're a developer, like how is AI going to help you specifically, right? That is super important for us because it's like any fundamental marketing. You think about your audience and you think about how you speak to that audience and how the product is going to help you, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. The second thing is we are obsessed about that business outcome component and the value that it generates from that. Like any AI that you apply to the business process through any of our products is going to give you value and you're going to be able to measure it. Simple things, Lisa, like we have an ROI calculator on our website. And it is a simple tool, but it's a very powerful one because it's the promise that we give to our customers. When we think about AI use cases for supply chain or AI use cases for finance or ones that cross multiple departments, with that calculator, you can say, okay, I'm going to use AI in this particular use cases, which are proven, and we have developed the product that way that is going to give you some value. And you can input your industry. You can input the number of employees that you have. You can input your revenue, even your currency, depending on the country that you're in. And then the use cases that we are shipping out of the box, for example, in SAP, although you can build your own, which is a whole other window of opportunity, but you can see the dollar amount, right? Like the dollar savings and annually over 3 years. And of course, these are estimates, but these are estimates that are grounded on value that we measure that our AI can generate, like in sample companies that we work with, right? So I think that this is the level of specificity that we need to market AI, because that's how people and our customers are seeing it become real versus this just like AI frenzy or AI language that we use.
Yeah, it's so much about showing ROI, demonstrating it. And it's a hard thing to do. We've been talking on this program since last year about that. And, when we talk with CMOs who are at PE-backed companies and their boards are like enterprise boards, where is the value in this investment? Because we know the investment's there. But I think what you're saying, and I really like this, I identify with this as a long-term marketer myself, is it isn't about selling features when it comes to AI. It's about, as you said, and this is fundamental as well, helping customers understand how do we bring AI into our business safely and responsibly, and to your earlier point, at scale. I think that's a wonderful message that SAP is bringing to the market.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the work safely and responsibly, Lisa, which I completely agree, because I think trust is something, going back to our point of like humans and AI working together. Trust is so fundamental. We have a history, of course, at SAP of co-innovating with our customers with trust at the center. And we continue to do that. So any AI that we deliver or that we work with our customers, it goes through a very strict set of gateways, right? And make sure that it's safe, that it's secure, that the data is protected, it's your data, right? So all of those things are a must for our customers to be able to see us as that trusted partner for your transformation, right? That not only is going to understand where you're at, but is going to understand where you want to go and that you can rely on.
Absolutely. I always say trust is currency. I do an iHeartRadio show as a tech expert a couple of days a week, and we were talking about TikTok the other day and how it's now under this new US entity. And then there was that, right after that happened, there was this big outage and millions of users were very skeptical and saying, oh, they're doing censorship and things like that, where there wasn't any proof of that concretely yet. But the transparency and the trust with that platform is shaky. And that's challenging for a brand because, as you're saying, it's foundational to how you operate, but it's also foundational to how they operate and market to their customers. How do you see, you've been in tech for a long time. I know you were at Salesforce, for example. How do you see marketing AI as like just fundamentally different than marketing other like B2B technologies that you've done?
I think that is fundamentally different, and in some ways is the same, right? Because there's some fundamentals of marketing, like we discussed before, that are just very foundational, right? Like you have to understand your audience, and that happens in B2B, that happens in B2C, that happens everywhere, right? So when we think about business users, when we think about developers, when we think about IT, and at SAP, we're very fortunate that we understand those multiple audiences because we have an offering for all of them, right? I mean, we have offerings on the ERP side, on the CRM side for our developers. We have a great platform. We have Data Cloud as well. So we really think about who are we speaking to and who are we marketing to solve their business problem, right? So that is just very fundamental. In other ways, it is very different, right? It is very different because, like we talked about, the level of change and the speed in which the message that we need to convey evolves. It's really fast, right? So I think that is something that as marketers, we have to think about: how is that message relevant and going to resonate with that particular audience at a specific moment in time? There's also things that we cannot control. I mean, there's what we can control, which is what we build as a company and the messages that we create. And then there's everything else that is happening in the market that we know that it changes on a daily basis, right? So I think as a marketer, we always have to stay super connected to everything that's going on in the not only in the tech space, but in general in the world, right? Because there's just so many factors that are affecting. AI is everywhere, and there's so many factors that are affecting how the audiences that we're speaking to are going to use AI and what they're going to use it for. So I think that in that sense is very fundamental of how we market something, but it's also drastically different, and we have to be able to evolve. The other thing that I always stay true, Lisa, is thinking about where the customer is at in terms of their maturity curve, right? So we need to meet customers where they're at. Again, because of this speed 100%. Of innovation that is happening, we have to understand is where is the customer, right? Is the customer on their journey to the cloud? Is very different, and we can help them accelerate that journey to the cloud for up to 35% with some of the innovation that we have in market, which is something that we've had in the past. Now, if a customer is already in the cloud, it's a totally different message and a totally different set of things that we can offer them, right? That maturity curve, it's super critical, right? Not only for how we message things, but actually how they understand, going back to the value, how they understand the value that they can take from AI, that they can work with us to extract from AI to be able to always have that ROI along the curve of their maturity.
Yep. That's key. And as things just get faster and faster and faster, demonstrating that ROI is just going to become more and more table stakes for all leaders, whether you're CMO, CRO, CFO, et cetera. But one of the things that I was really admiring about what you were saying, especially for our viewers who are prospective CMOs, maybe they're junior marketers, what you've shared was a couple things. Your excitement for getting to do this in this age of AI that is so incredibly agile, but exciting at the same time as there's some marketing fundamentals. So I think from a career ladder perspective, it seems like there's great opportunity there to take your marketing fundamentals and go into evolving technologies like AI, where you have the fundamentals, but you also have completely different opportunities to learn and grow as a marketer. And I love that message that you shared with the audience. So thank you.
No, that I think that there's so many, I mean, for early career talent, Lisa, like you said, there's AI is influencing everything. I myself have a senior, a 17-year-old that's going into college and thinking just about what is the discipline that she wants to go into. There's no, and her peers as well, there's no discipline that any early in career talent is thinking right now that is not touching AI, or that AI is not touching, right? From creativity to computer science, to health. I mean, pick an industry, right? Yep. Whatever industry that you pick is going to be, it's already influenced, right? I don't want to say disrupted, but it is influenced heavily by AI, right? Depending on the journey that industry is in. So I think that for every marketer out there, it's no matter what industry you're going to market to, what type of marketing you're going to go into, AI is going to be so fundamental, not only for you to get better at what you do, but for you to better understand the customer, right? That you're marketing, that you're marketing to, and how effective you're going to be.
I want to get your perspective on the jobs front for a second, because I was just doing some research on what happened at the World Economic Forum this year in Davos. And one of the quotes from Jensen Huang was jobs, 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 talking about all of the jobs from a trades perspective, even that building out and maintaining AI data centers is going to bring. I thought that was a good message because it seemed like, well, the consumer facing public is very skeptical of AI and have been for a long time. And there's good reason because it's neutral technology, but there's good uses, there's in between, there's the bad use cases, a lot of it's people. But from a jobs perspective, and also I think the message from Davos was they want to help people, leaders want to help people understand how to use AI to better themselves so that they are more marketable, they are more relatable, they are more reliable. It's an interesting dynamic right now, but I think that's just it, is we have to be so agile, but open-minded. And I see it from a glass half full kind of lens. It's just kind of how I am. But do you have like a favorite customer story of SAP's where you guys just really nailed the value proposition and took them from that ROI calculator to actually demonstrating that to their board?
Yeah. So first I want to touch on what you said earlier in terms of how the jobs and AI and how it's influencing that. I think that we've all heard this, Lisa, but your job is not going to be replaced by AI, but it can be replaced by somebody using AI, right? So I think that the learning component is so critical, right? I mean, we talk about just learning, and SAP has investments, right, in terms of learning and be able to provide all those resources, those learning resources to everyone. So you can learn more about AI. That continuous learning and that curiosity is incredibly important, I think, for everyone, because of the speed that this innovation is happening. In terms of customers, I think that one of the things that we do with our customers, like I mentioned before, is not only obsessing about like the value that AI can bring to their journey and looking at where they are in their journey and how we can continue that transformation with them, but also like thinking about the industry they're in. I think that the different industries have very specific needs, right? So we look at their industry and more we talk about how AI can be applied to that industry. And you'll hear more about that. You'll hear more about that throughout this year as well, right? Because now we're going into the level of specificity of the value that it can be driven by AI in a particular industry. One of my favorite customers, there's so many, right? But one of my favorite customers is IXOM. They use AI embedded into all of their customer experience solutions, or of their CRM solutions that we provide to them. And we help them bring together all their customer data, which is super important and foundational, right? We help them do very precise segmentation for personalization. But most importantly, all of the application of AI within their organization has increased their leads 92%. On the website digitally, right? So we're talking about a twofold in terms of the leads that they are increasing. We have retailers as well in the UK. Zumelia is a retailer, is one of my favorite stories as well. And they also do a lot of personalization, but in just 3 months, they saw a 75% increase in active customers. So I think that what draws me more of all these stories is really the payoff that they see, right? Like the value that they see. They saw a 95% increase in revenue from the customers that they were attracting more. So I think that we see all of those results, and it's really encouraging, right? Because if you think about that and then you try to scale it, it's just pretty amazing. And it's applying within their business process. It's not creating something completely different and unique. It's within what they're doing already, applying AI and being able to optimize that.
So the SAP solutions you're talking about are clearly very well developed, very, very well delivered. When you're talking, if a buyer comes to you and saying, okay, we're looking at something else, another solution for whatever, what are the questions that buyers should ask to basically pressure test AI vendors to really ensure that they're going to deliver what they say they can?
I think that one of the things is, do they understand the company and the business process enough, right? Like there's so many companies right now, AI companies that, rightfully so, right? They develop specific products and they're more like bolt-on, Lisa, than anything else. And they really don't understand all of your data. all of your business process, like where are the optimization points, where are the pain points that you're trying to solve. So I think that the pressure testing comes to the true understanding of your business, right? Like if a vendor, if a company truly understands your business and has experience really driving value on business with businesses like you at your scale, super important in your industry, right? Then that's something that you say, okay, like they've done it, like I can trust that. Number two is trust. So we talked about that. It's like how do they develop their solutions? Is it in a trusted platform? I think that there's just so many things out there that you have to rely on really the trust factor with the vendor, right? Like, have they done this for how many years? Have they, again, like the legacy that we have is pretty incredible. And again, we have built on that. We have built on that over the past few years, and we continue to build on that to be able to provide that customer the confidence that we know their business, that we know where they stand and where they want to go, and that we can do that in a trusted and reliable way.
I love that. It sounds culturally, from such a historied company like SAP, what you have there is a culture of willingness, of adaptation, of evolution. And of course, we can't not say the word agility when we're talking about tech. But if there's like a fun lightning round to wrap this up, Brenda, are there any AI myths out there? Like, what's the biggest AI myth out there that you think that there are CMOs that are still believing that you would say, let's talk about why we can debunk that?
I think that there's several AI myths. I think that one of the myths is like, oh, AI will solve everything, right, overnight. I mean, it's not a magic switch. You really have to ground it, right? Yeah. You really have to ground AI on like a business process, your data, like it has to be solving something that is relevant for our customers, right? So I think that that's something that we need to debunk, like, oh, it's going to just magically happen. Like it is not going to magically happen. That's one of the things. The other thing is just that is going to transform everything. It is a process, right? It is a process. I think that AI is evolving super fast, but it is definitely a process that it is going to transform the way that we live, the way that we work. It is transforming the way that we live and that we work. But we have to do it very, very responsibly, right? So that's the other thing. And then the third one is like you have to understand that it's all grounded on the data that you have, right? So if you don't have that very fundamental asset, it's not going to produce the results that you want. So that is something that sometimes it's like, oh, it doesn't matter where you are in the process. We can give you the result that you want. No, it depends. It depends where your data is at and how that is being harmonized. It is the results that you're going to get.
Exactly. A couple more just fun questions for you. What is your favorite AI tool right now that you personally use like most at work or at home?
Well, I have to say that it's Joule. So Joule is our AI, kind of our AI orchestrator. It is the way that we interact with SAP systems. A lot of people know it as the SAP Copilot, right? Is Joule. I use Joule a lot, Lisa, because of course that the more that we use it, the more that you use a particular tool, the smarter that it gets, right? And in particular for my job in SAP, I use Joule a ton. However, it would be amiss if I don't tell you that I use a lot of AI tools because I test them, I work with them. So I use a lot of the AI tools that are out there just to make sure that, I mean, not that I know more of them and that how customers are using them, but that I can see how fast they're evolving. Right. So I use the traditional AI tools that everybody's using from a lot of our partners and our competitors too. Right. Yeah. But that's the reality. I mean, you have to do that. The other thing that I am using a lot these days, Lisa, is just agent builder, right? Like how to build agents. I think that we've talked about the role of the humans. I mean, this is not new, but agents are everywhere these days, right? And they will continue to be everywhere. Because it is kind of a coexistence, right? And it's how we're going to extend the value of AI. We have an agent builder in SAP, and it's super cool to be able to build agents and see how everyday tasks that you do, if you build an agent for it, like suddenly you wake up and it's being automated and it's being done for you. So it's pretty incredible, and you get quite a bit of time back to do other things.
Exactly. You just used a word that I love that I want to end on, and that's coexistence. Every time I have the opportunity, whether it's a network TV program I do or the radio, I feel like a sense of obligation to help
Mhm.
more consumer folks, because I've been in enterprise tech for 20 years, help the consumers be less afraid of AI and more aware of where it's already positively impacting us. I
Yes.
do. I don't know about you, but I feel that's kind of sense of obligation. But if there's for 2026, we're in the early parts. What's one word or phrase that you think CMOs should they've got to think about it when it comes to AI and helping customers prove that ROI?
I think that one word that I would love to end on, we've used a lot of words, right, in terms of value and just some very concrete ones. But one that I
Yeah.
would like to end on that is more on the inspirational side is imagine. Like imagine the possibilities that you can have with AI as part of your life, as part of your work. I think that we've talked about with agents and all the possibilities of agents. We've talked about fear too, right? Like sometimes there's a little bit of fear of like
Yes.
jobs, etc. But if we imagine the possibilities of AI in our lives and in our work, the truth is that AI does require that imagination, right? AI is not going to tell you
It
exactly
does.
how to be used. You need to look at your life, your work, and problems that you want to solve, and start imagining how you solve them. And that is going to give us tremendous, tremendous progress, right? Like just imagine the
Yeah.
things that you are great at and that you want to augment. Imagine the things that your team is great at and that you want to extend and scale, right? So whatever those things are, like I think that the possibilities are endless, truly, with AI, and it
Oh,
requires a
yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
imagination, a lot of creativity, and a lot of responsibility as well.
I love that. Imagine. You just literally gave me chills. It's one of my favorite songs as well. Well, Brenda, I just want to thank you again for joining us on the conversation. You walked through some incredibly important topics. You walked through them for existing CMOs, for prospective CMOs, and folks that really join our program to learn how to grow, but also how to manage themselves and their learning trajectories in this crazy fast time. I can't thank you enough for what you shared, your wisdom, your knowledge, and imagine, I think, is going to be the theme for me for the year. So thank you for that inspiration.
Yes, no, thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation.
I loved it. We want to thank you for watching. Every 2 weeks, we release a new episode of CMOs Unscripted. So if you haven't yet subscribed on YouTube, hit that button. That way you'll always be in the know. And of course, you can always find things out on my socials at Lisa Martin Media. For Brenda Bown, I'm Lisa Martin. We thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.